Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. I recently took a trip to Gambia, so I haven't had the chance to film. That's for another video. Today we're going to be doing something a little simplistic, something I've been meaning to do for a while now, which is using Chat GPT to create a resume template. If you're not sure what Chat GPT is or OpenAI, which I'm sure most of you know by now, essentially ChatGPT is an algorithm, and GPT-3 is actually the name of the algorithm that is used to be trained against a massive amount of data. And essentially, this language model is one of the most proficient and almost the most realistic that we have out there. Now, there has been an update to GPT-4, but you actually have to join a waitlist to use that. So for today, I'll just be using GPT-3. The other thing to keep in mind is that I used to be a career advisor for my local college, University of Washington, Bothell. So I do have some experience creating, reviewing, and editing resumes. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so here we are now in the playground, and the reason why I'm using the playground and not ChatGPT is because the ChatGPT website for me doesn't work. Whenever I try to send requests, it just says it didn't work. Contact OpenAI, and the workaround is just to use the playground. You can do the exact same thing as you can in ChatGPT, sending a prompt and getting a response back, but it's just a little bit more, I would say, it requires a little bit more advanced knowledge or intermediate knowledge of ChatGPT, such as increasing the maximum length of tokens you can get back. I'm going to go ahead and start with a simple request. Give me a resume template. So I want to make it as basic and bare bones just to see what is the strength of ChatGPT or GPT-3 when being met with a somewhat vague and ambiguous request, assuming I don't know anything about resumes. So let's go ahead and run that. And it's thinking. Okay, here we go. We have a resume template that was, I guess, given back in a certain format. Let's go ahead and copy this, and we'll paste it in the Word doc, and we'll kind of continue from there. So I'll just create a blank Word doc, paste that, and keep the formatting. Okay, I want to edit the format so it's a little bit easier to see what's going on. I think sometimes when I copy and paste stuff from the GPT window to the Word doc, the formatting gets a little weird. So let's go ahead and fix that, clean that up. To start, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of some spaces here. I'm also going to simplify this by basically creating what I call a resume header. Your header will be your name and your contact information. You can also call it your contact header on your resume, which includes your name, contact information, email, and perhaps your address. Objective section is usually an optional section, but we'll keep it for now since it was given back as part of this template. And then skills are pretty straightforward. Experience is also pretty straightforward. I like how it's giving me two different sections for two different experiences. I like that a lot. And then last but not least, it gives me my education section was actually very far at the bottom. Now, last but not least, and I've seen this a lot with ChatGPT, it seems to give back references. You don't actually need references on your resume. You can put those somewhere else in a reference sheet. You don't need to put references on your resume directly. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. One thing I'm seeing is these bullet points listed under education, and I'm not really sure why they're there. I'm going to leave them there for now and instead focus on just decreasing the spacing. So we'll just remove spacing. And this gets us to a one pager. And this is important because a resume does not want to span more than 2 pages. And you want to make sure you're using all white space effectively. So if you have a lot of spacing, if you have things that are just taking up one line, it's generally not a good use of space unless it's really adding to the structure in some particular way. Now that we have the template done, we're going to start by asking ChatGPT to give me examples for each section that it has given me here. Okay, so I've cleared my chat window here, or the playground window as we should call it. And now I'm just going to load it up with another prompt asking for a realistic contact header. Give me a realistic, realistic contact header for a resume. Okay, so it gives me a contact header now. The thing it didn't give me was the name. The most important thing is your name. So you wouldn't have something like contact, but you have something like Yusuf Core if you were me. Or in our case, we're gonna make a simple name, John Smith, right? Why not? I'm gonna go ahead and just copy and paste that directly to our resume. Now, there is a little bit of changes I'm gonna make. The first is that I'm gonna put everything on one line just to not take up space. With that being said, this is a good example of a contact header. The reason why I like this is it has the name at the top. I kind of had to add that, but you know, it has the phone number, your email, your LinkedIn, and then it has your location. This is very standard for a contact header. I have no issues with it. We have our contact header, and now I'm just going to go ahead and go back and ask for a example of an objective section. Now again, I don't usually put that on my resume unless I can't use a cover letter, but in this particular case, since it's part of the template, let's go ahead and ask for an example. So give me an example of a objective section on a resume. This works for me. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and cut that. And I'm going to directly paste this here, fix the formatting, and then get rid of this original header. So objective section is done. So let's go ahead and go to the next section, which would be the skills section. And I will focus this a little bit more specifically towards a software engineer. So the skills are going to be a little bit more specific for that particular role. Let's go ahead and take it to the playground window. Give me an example skills section for a software engineering role. Now, I left out resume on a resume specifically to see if Chat GPT will still understand the nuance in the language or the ambiguity. And again, I just want to see how far we can push it before we start getting incorrect or half-baked responses. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so this is exactly what I thought would happen, which is instead of giving me concrete skills like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and that's it, it's starting to build out kind of sentences. And this isn't a bad thing, but it takes up a lot of space. And on a resume, I would say it's not actually the best way to go about structuring your skills section. So watch what happens when I say for a, ooh, that's not right. Oh, I lost it all. Okay, we're gonna have to retype it. Watch what happens when I add give me skills for this role on a resume. That on a resume is gonna change the response that I'm getting back from ChatGPT. So let's go ahead and do that. Give me an example skills section for, a software engineering role for a resume. And let's go ahead and see what it gives me. Okay, so it's still something similar to the other response where it's giving me kind of like a sentence structure, and that's fine, but I personally like to just keep my skills short and concise, and I will list it under languages or under cloud technologies or under, programming principles, OOP, test-driven design, TDD. I don't generally use sentences to explain my skills, but since this is what's coming back, I think we're just going to have to run with it for now. We'll just take the top three and we'll call it good. Paste it in my skills section again, format it so it works. Boom. So skills taken care of. Now we have to go and get an example for an experience part of the resume. And this is the meat of any and all resumes. Your experience section, whether it's schooling, whether it's job-based, internship-based, research, it's going to be the bulk of your resume, right? And there's a reason for that, because it is you literally speaking to your experience to say why you're qualified for doing a particular role. It's the section that if you don't get right is going to keep you from at least getting an interview a lot of the times, because of the fact that that's where people are going to see whether or not you're qualified. Let's get to getting an example for our experience section. Give me an example for experience. I'm gonna have to add a little bit more, saying list 2 example experiences. And let's see if we get a better response back there. Okay, that's worse. That's way worse. Let's get rid of everything else and list 2 roles for this section and tailor this to a software engineer. I'm really trying here to make sure that we get something that's worth putting, at least hitting the bare minimum. Okay, this is better. This is better. Where you have role 1 and then role 2. This is what we would expect on an experience section. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these 2. Let's go ahead and paste that in our Word document. Notice how the template is actually a little different than the actual example given. So let me go ahead and post this under the original template. Basically follow the same format as the template. This is what we get after we have edited everything based on the way that the template had already structured it. And last but not least, we have our education section. Now this is equally as important as our experience, because a lot of times companies won't even look at your resume if you don't have a bachelor's degree. So let's go ahead and ask Chat GPT to give me an example for the education section. Tailor this to a software engineer. And let's go ahead and run that. See what we get. It's very straightforward. Actually, I like the use of relevant projects. So I'm going to go ahead and copy all this, assuming that the person who is going to be this resume would be for, ideally, would be someone early in career. So let's go ahead and paste that there. And of course, I have to fix some stuff. Like adding the education section back. To be honest with you, I'm going to go with relevant coursework over relevant projects, just to decrease the amount of space that's being used here. And I think this would be about it. Now that's good. Okay, because the relevant coursework and projects is listed directly under education, and it expands on what I did and how I've learned the things that I've learned through various projects or courses. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and this is just something I like to do personally. I like to make sure that the sections are capitalized so you know what you're really seeing here. Experience, skills, and that's really about it. Okay, so that's actually pretty decent. If I was gonna use this as a template to start like the basic structure of a resume and the various bits of information I need to fill in, it does work. Now, note, for the skills section and for the experience section, some of the things were not as accurate as I would hoped. So you definitely have to make sure that when you are using Chat GPT to build your resume, that you also go and kind of like fact check it against things that are out there on the internet. And you can actually find a whole bunch of free resources that are very credible. Local university, your public, university, usually have career services. Something as simple as that, and then I click on resume, right? It's going to be usually the first or second bullet point. I can take a look at some of the free resources like our resume writing guide, right? And this is all free. You don't actually need to pay for it. So the reason why I'm saying this is you can get these sample resumes and they will give you a very concrete look at what you should actually be doing to create a strong resume. Now, again, this is offered by our public universities, our public institutions, and I think they're very credible for what they have going on here. So this is also where I was trained, not for this particular university, but the satellite school for Bothell. And this is where I also created and also distributed resources to help people learn how to create strong resumes. Okay, so that is it for the video. If you like that, like and subscribe and share this. I will be posting more content on career services, machine learning, tech, all of the above. on this channel. And once I hit 100 subscribers, I plan on dropping a Patreon and also dropping some content that will help people hopefully affected by the layoffs find their next career. So thanks again for checking in, and until next time, Otilo. Or in Wolof we say si jama or mangedem. Peace.